Ever wish you could find an actual competent Facebook/Meta employee so that you could ask them the questions you always wanted to know about Facebook ads? I mean, look, I've been running a marketing agency dabbling in Facebook ads successfully for over a decade, and I have talked in that time to literally dozens of these so-called experts that try to get you on the phone from that company, and literally all of them were absolute garbage. That was until recently I attended a meeting for high level back in October in Dallas, and I met an actually competent one there, an employee, a rep for Meta, who actually was talking like me, who knew what he was saying about Facebook ads, and I absolutely knew that we had to get him on an interview inside of our group. So what I've done for this video specifically today, the one that I'm about to go into in just a second, is we interviewed this individual inside our group to get you guys all the details about how Facebook ads could work, what the algorithm is actually doing on the back end, and a few hard-hitting questions right back at them, all for good fun. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, and honestly, if you've worked in Facebook at all, if you've ever done Facebook ads, Facebook organic, any of that stuff, I really think it'll be a good one for you. Then stay right here. Guys, as always, I built this channel to just give away thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of information. How do I know it's worth that much? Well, we've paid that much to learn it, along with the decade worth of experience I've gotten to do it, and we've charged that much for a lot of these different things in the past. So if you want to be a part of this journey, the only thing I ask in return is for you to smash that subscribe button and maybe leave a little bit of your biggest takeaways underneath this video so that others can benefit from it as well. All that being said, one more time, smash that subscribe button, because we actually are dropping these videos every single week. So smash that subscribe button so that you're on there. And let's dive in. This is an interview we had with the only competent Facebook/Meta rep I've met in my decade plus experience running Facebook ads. Let's dive in. Enjoy.
Let me give a little bit of a background on what you're about to embark on. We got the idea man and we got our main man, Cody, in the house. So Teva impressed me over at the GHL conference. So we got a chance to chat, and you know how we feel about those Meta people. I always joke around saying, if you want customer service from Meta on how to improve things, just go to Bank of America because they're no better. But this man is the idea man. So that's why we're excited to bring somebody from the insider point of view that understands the pain points of agency. So he sat on the global advertising team at Meta for 5 years. He's an innovation strategist. He's trained thousands upon thousands of agencies on Facebook ads, from concepts to new products to new features, and a whole slew of amazing speeches that he's done, like Yelp, Pixar, Stanford, the Fed Reserve, like all the big boys. So we're in for a treat. Maybe we'll do a little battle royale between Cody and Teva together. These guys are the ads masters, so I'm here to moderate. But hey, Teva, thanks for hopping on today, my man.
For having me. Glad to be here and share some game.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So why don't you give a little bit of an introduction to yourself, and we'll kind of dive right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Tavad, the idea man. They call me the idea man because I got all the ideas, man. But really, I look at how to 10x your marketing through the power of dope creativity. And a lot of times when we get talked and we get deep into our funnels and our metrics and, our A/B testing, we forget about the heart of marketing, which is communications and connecting with someone's soul and spirit in a creative and fun way. And so that's what I bring it back to. I started out as a hip hop artist, making spoken word, rap music. I'm talking a lot about social good, equity, social justice. And I knew that that wasn't the thing that was popping, and it wouldn't be on the radio. So I said, well, I better learn marketing if I want to be a successful artist. So that kind of took me in my career, got a degree in advertising, went on to the Federal Reserve, did some lobbying. I spent the last 5 years on the global advertising team at Meta, and now, fully as a strategist for agencies that are running their ads and want to get better results, and they're pissed off at all the algorithmic changes that Meta had. And since I do those changes from previously working there, I hope you get results.
Well, that Fed Reserve must have given you some real teeth, right? Because you're basically talking to two sides that don't want to talk or talking to a wall. So you definitely have to be creative in that artistic communication. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
We're about to rock some stuff out because you saw the topic. What is the number one lever to pull to get your broken ass campaigns to be actually functional? And this doesn't mean you as the business that could be literally grabbing a lighter and putting it into Facebook and burning it down yourselves because you're missing certain things, but also for your clients. Because if you need more marketing for yourself, like I always like to say the shoemaker with no shoes, because if you're a marketing agency doing ads for clients, you should also be doing them for yourselves, because that just means you don't believe in Facebook advertising or media buying at all, but you believe you'd risk your clients' money on it. So I want you guys to look at it from both perspectives. Okay. And it's gonna be important because the mistakes are gonna be just as important as the levers. Because like Cody, what have you spent millions upon millions of dollars over hundreds of clients for like what we've done together and what you did separate from me?
Yeah, at least 9 figures at this point between ourselves and all of our high ticket clients and stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, and 9 figures, what is that? A billy? We're not even in the milli stage anymore. We're at different levels, right? So we're talking billy goats here. And then Taba obviously having that insider track, having like that global methodology, looking at it from like a whole perspective, like every country, because some of you guys are coming in from like Australia, you guys are coming in from England, US, Canada, wherever you are. So do we want to dive into it, or what do we want to do? Do we want to dive into the mistakes? I want to mediate this between you two guys, because you guys are just the ads guys. I'm just a boring old marketing guy that does sales. So I'll see if I can ask some really good questions so we can get either you guys agreeing or arguing. Is that fair? It'll be like lobbying in the Federal Reserve. So let's kind of ping pong around. Let's tee up the mistakes. Like I'll start with you, Teva. Like what's one of the biggest mistakes that you see that agency owners are either ignorant to or they're open minded to when they're doing their campaigns?
Oh, there's a lot.
Let's start with one. We're gonna go back and forth. So we may get more than three, so you might get some more knowledge here because ultimately by the end of this could be actually end up being a fucking workshop.
So the major ones I see is a misuse of lookalike audiences. Everybody talks about it. Everybody know, most agencies know a lookalike audience, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that," and they do it for themselves or their clients, but they're not using it correctly. So typically, I see a lot of people doing a lookalike audience of something like their email list, right? Which doesn't mean it doesn't work, right? Anytime someone tells you something does or doesn't work when it comes to marketing, there's always going to be some varying levels of success and circumstantial results. It just means that you could be using it a lot better and having much greater results, right? So about generally your email list. On an email list, there's people who have not opened your email. There's people who have bought from you. There's people who have not bought from you. There's people who, at all varying stages. Now, when you run a lookalike email or a lookalike campaign off of your email list, you are now targeting people who look like people who are purchasers, but also look like people who won't open your email, also look like people who will look but never like, also like people who, they just window shoppers. So if you want to use lookalike audiences much more effectively, what you want to do is build a segment of your most highest value client, whatever client has the highest lifetime customer value for you, or whatever you consider important. And whatever you consider those best clients are, you need at least 100, but build a lookalike audience off of them, because now you're not building a lookalike audience of people who have just window shopped and never done anything. You're only building and finding lookalikes of your best purchasers.
Yeah, and that's a good way to burn a bunch of budget, don't you think? Like if you had 12,000 people and you got like 90% of that database, we all know is going to be people who are never going to buy your shit, right? There might be some engagers, but having that wherewithal to say, hey, I get that I have this database. I'm going to intentionally use my money to who I think is a high priority first. And then they're already on the fucking list. They're already in the Facebook group. You can tag them and use your organic efforts. Is that kind of the right reasoning from like saving money and also at the same time digging deeper into that lookalike audience so you can actually find those transactional people?
It's about the algorithm and how the algorithm works, right? So the algorithm works by sorting similarities by a hashed audience that you may not know are existing between the multitude of those people, right? There's millions of bits of information on those people. And so if you are, it's just like basically you're feeding a machine that does machine learning bad data, right? You're giving it, hey, find me a bunch of other people that look like these people who don't buy from me. And then you're don't have the results. It's like, well, you told it the wrong thing. It did exactly what you told it to do, right? And so a lot of people, you know, we hear, different strategies online, or we hear something and it sounds cool, but we don't know fully how each tool works or how that makes the system operate based on that choice. And
I want to hover on that for just a second, because we train hundreds of people trying to do media buying for themselves and for their own clients and all this stuff, and I'm constantly telling them basically a very, very similar thing to what you just said, and that's you're either telling the machine to do the wrong fucking thing, or you're teaching the machine the wrong thing. And it's like, okay, well, what is it? What does that mean? Well, it means like, okay, you want leads, but you started a traffic campaign and you wonder why it's showing it to people who are giving you traffic. They're clicking the links, but they're not doing anything. Well, guess what you told the machine to do? You told the machine to go find people who click on shit, but don't do anything else. That's who you asked it to go find. And the same thing with what you're saying, a lookalike list built around people who don't do the shit that you want it to do. Well, why would you then assume it's going to be finding people who look like the people who do what you want it to do, right? You're teaching the machine is powerful. And then with proper testing methodologies and proper assets in place, you can really make it work for you. But if you start off on the wrong foot, like what you're saying right now, which is just telling it to do the wrong fucking thing, you pushed the wrong button. You had green and red, you pushed red. I don't know why, but you did. Right. And now you're surprised that the bad thing happened.
Well, just look at the cascading effect outside of just hacking or utilizing, forget hacking, but utilizing the algorithm correctly. Like think about the cascade effect after that. You get the wrong people, you get those shitty leads, you get a frustrated setting team, you get a frustrated owner, you get a frustrated sales team. Think about that compounding over the next 3 months. And then the worst thing is you quit, right? So like think about what you're doing to yourself and your business. You're problem finding instead of solution hunting. And that's what I look from like a whole different perspective, because I love Facebook ads. I love Instagram ads. It's our best source. Love the platform. So we've monetized the shit out of this, but it's also through like networking with Teva, with Cody, with all higher powered people in these bigger rooms, right? And that's how we kind of gain these perspectives so we can avoid mistakes, because we're not trying to buy solutions necessarily all the time. We're trying to buy the mistakes we shouldn't be making. So therefore we already can narrow down to the right solution. So that's a big one. Now, what do you tell people like this? Because like a lot of people will do this. They'll be like, all right, I'm new to this, or maybe they're not new. Maybe they're just old school, used to cold calling, used to LinkedIning and referring and just doing ground and pound sales. But now they want to enter Facebook and they want to use this lookalike thing, and they buy this list from like Dun and Bradstreet or D7 Finder, upload that shit and lookalike it. What do you say to that?
Hey man, hey, there's other funner ways to ball out. If you're gonna waste some money, you know what I'm saying? I can think of some better ways to do it.
What charity do you recommend?
You know what I'm saying? At least. You have no idea how other people are getting the leads, especially when and if you just think about, everyone operates off of self-interest. So a lot of times if you're in a very specific niche, it could be very likely that those leads have been sold to multiple people. Right? It would make sense. So now you're trying to cold call a list that maybe 6 other people have, you're trying to run an audience off of. They might be trying to do the same thing. And I think people need to figure out where Facebook ads are in their funnel. I think, broadly beyond just ads, people don't really understand marketing as a whole. And, that's why I really like, what you share and what you talk about, is because ads is a fundamental part within the entire marketing infrastructure. But if you don't understand the difference between, the marketing funnel and a cold and a warm lead, then you can't even figure out where Facebook is going to be in your strategy, right? Because it doesn't necessarily, for some people, it's the full funnel. But some people, it just needs to be lead acquisition. For some people, it just needs to be conversion, until you're building all systems there. So it depends on what level, how much money, but if you're new, I would look at what is it first? Do you have some data and some information already that you can just use and help it to help you convert? Or is it, hey, I need to find new people? Because typically people are thinking about that as just one campaign where they're like, because you can, right? You can go from someone never hearing about you to them buying something low ticket or something free, then buying low ticket, then moving up. Like that is a funnel and it works. But for most people, you have to think getting someone from never hearing about your business to going to your website and converting and then being a high value customer in one campaign is not as likely. And so you want to figure out, what am I going for? Do I need lead acquisition or do I need sales? And what tools or what objectives lend to those things?
Yeah, that's powerful. Is just knowing your objective, because like a lot of people go into Facebook ads with probably one expectation. It's like it's going to solve my sales problem. And if you're unknown to the world, it's really hard to, like, imagine like you're at Starbucks and you probably don't talk to anybody out there, right? That's just like your Facebook ads. Nobody wants to talk to them and engage with it because they don't know, like, or trust you just yet. And we'll get into the creative aspect of it, because there's a way to turn that around to go from cold to sold. It's not, those are kind of like quote unquote the unicorn type things. But it's also how well people already know who you are. Because if I run an ad and my expectation is to have the same result as like a Tony Robbins to run an ad, I'm going to be poorly disappointed. So you have to be totally aware, because like not too many people know me, but a lot of people know Steph Curry, right? So we just have to understand like where we are in the minds of the customer in terms of their journey. Because that top of funnel money and that top of funnel budget, like I know that with digital marketer, that girl who started her own thing, she was like the VP of digital marketing. I forgot her name already. She left and started her own firm. But like one thing she talked about was like 60-20-20. That should add up to 100 if my math is correct. But it was like 60% should be top of funnel, looking for ideal candidates to get that top of funnel goodwill, if you will, whether it's a tripwire, a low ticket, or just get known, and then move them down to the funnel, to the middle of the funnel with something a little bit more commitment. And then the bottom of the funnel could be like testimonials, call to action, etc. Like, do you agree with that kind of like overall overarching, like just broad strategy?
Yeah, I think that, I like that because it's structured out, right?
Right.
Most think in one campaign to try to do all of those things, right? But how you need to communicate with someone who's never heard about your brand versus someone who's heard about your brand versus someone who's considering your brand is very different. They need to hear a different creative, a different messaging, it's different targeting, they're different areas in the funnel. So it makes sense that you are narrowing it and creating messages for each of those people. But I'd be interested to hear what Cody has to say on that, and just on that kind of idea of being specific around who you're targeting, or if it's top of funnel or bottom.
Yeah, I mean, look, the customer journey matters, and your messaging has to be different at each approach. But I think the main thing that a lot of people try and do too much of, I think, is focus on retargeting early. Especially when you're not, look, different strokes for different folks, right? If we're running an e-commerce campaign, you better have dynamic retargeting installed immediately, because otherwise you're losing traffic. But if you're running a coaching program, an agency, that kind of stuff, really you need to be monetizing the front end, and then you need to be worrying about how do I monetize the back end. So if we're losing a lot of that, then yeah, we do the 60-20-20, but really what it ends up being is more like an 80-20, because a lot of you guys don't have that middle of funnel thing. So it's easy to sit here and say 60-20-20, but you don't even have a group or a list or a nurturing process to do middle of funnel. So really what you're doing is 80-20. You're just trying to fill the funnel so that you build that list so that eventually you can do that. And then you can worry about the communal aspect of it later. But you're just trying to say, cool, well, this person hasn't quite bought or booked a call yet. So what can I do? Do I do a different offer? Right? Or do I do some kind of social proof? Do I run some testimonials to say, hey, this thing that you saw that you clicked on, but you didn't buy or you didn't book, right? Well, maybe you clicked on it because you were interested in it, but then you got there and you're like, well, shit, I don't know this guy. Who the hell is Cody? What the hell is a Rahul, right? I've never heard of a Rahul before. I don't know if he's trustworthy. I wasn't ready to go there, so I left, right? But now you get a testimonial video and a story. The power of story in the lower levels, the middle and bottom of funnel thing to go along with an offer, that can really be the thing that meets a person where they need to be met. The thing that levels up the three tens, the three levels of certainty, 10 out of 10 for you, your product, your company, that's going to be the thing that changes their lives, that's going to be the thing that actually gets them to where they want to go. And that extra additional middle bottom of funnel messaging process assets that you're leveraging, that's what the job is supposed to be, right? Is to finally drive that home, to level up that certainty through the assets you have available to yourself. So it's a little bit more of a long-winded way of saying the strategy approach, but I think it really matters. What are you doing at the top of funnel? What kind of business are you running, and what assets do you have available to really drag that across?
Yeah, I mean, the context matters because the bullet point list isn't helpful. It's just, it could take somebody down the wrong path. But like what I'm hearing from both of you guys is basically like treated it almost like a dating funnel, right? That's like marketers always compare it to dating. It's like, well, we first introduce ourselves saying, hi, my name is. Then we say, hey, you want to get some coffee? Then maybe a dinner. Now it's getting a little bit, oh, we're in the dating scene. Then we're going to be like, hey, move in. So it's like, that's how like kind of the sales process and the sales journey works. It's like, hi, my name is, this is what I do, this is what I'm great at. You have this pain, I have this solution. What if it makes sense to hop on a call? Now we're going to be dating. We're going to do our discovery. We're going to do whatever your strategy is, whether it's one call, two call, follow up, etc. And then it's like, all right, now it's time to get serious. Rubber's meeting the road. Let's jump into bed, do some shit together, some long run game planning. And that's like what these marketing channels, and specifically to Facebook and Instagram, is what we're doing with it. Is we're looking at the whole, like from like 30,000 feet and kind of narrowing in, because like the last expectation, which is going to go, which I think is mistake number 2, which I'm going to tee up for everybody, or number 3, is patience. Like, what is your expectation? Right? Because as much as I preach it, I'm also a consequence of my not taking my own advice. Because like Cody knows, he deals with me all the time. It's like, launched an ad, I see the approval email, I'm like, dude, did it get any fucking leads yet? So like I want to segue into patience, like, because you said something interesting in Texas when we were sitting down or talking about the learning phase, the learning machine of launching a new campaign. So let's go into the mistake of the learning phase, so people are clear of what that even means and why it even exists.
Got it. So again, right, it kind of goes back to, and people all, I all the time, especially when people talk to me, and they're like, oh, you used to work at Facebook, like they always asking the questions like, how does the algorithm work? And or the algorithm hates me. I don't know what I did, but it just punishes me, and it's all. And it's like, no, just learn how it works, and then you know what to do. And so one of those things is, as you mentioned, is the learning phase, right? And the learning phase is basically until a certain amount of whatever result you've requested through your objective, right, is until you get to a certain amount, Facebook is basically what I like to call it, like guess and checking, right? It's an easy way. When you used to learn, I think we did it for math or whatever, right? You just guess and you're like, okay, let me check, right? And you're kind of just putting stuff out there, educated guesses, but you're seeing what works. Just like when you first launch a new product and you wrote your messaging. And some people think if I just write my message in one time, it's going to hit forever. It's like, no, that was a guess. Now you got to give, based on feedback and how people are responding, you need to then go ahead and revise. And so the same way that we do that with our business, with our messaging, with our products and services, Facebook an algorithm perspective. When you first launch the campaign, it goes into something called the learning phase, where it is guessing and checking to see, hey, you've told me to reach out to this many people. I'm going to see who is working. Over time, I realized that people that have this set of similarities tend to perform or have more results. After the learning phase is over, the algorithm has learned, and then it starts sending out optimal, right? There's a lot of things that make it optimal, but better optimized results, right? So sometimes somebody will tell me like, okay, I'm running a campaign for a week for a launch. And I'm like, basically, you're running an entirely unoptimized campaign. Or they'll be like, yeah, I make a major update on my campaign every week to make sure that I'm, if I suggested a creative, or I switch the audience a little bit, or, I do these things that every time you do something major in a campaign, it resets the learning phase, right? Because then it's like, oh, different creative, that's very different. Different audience, that's very different. I got to test this whole thing again. So some people, a lot of agencies, spend their entire time running ads messing up. There is basically like if you were trying to run and you tie your shoes together, and you just keep tripping and you don't untie it. Like you're running your entire campaign on the learning phase. You're never getting optimized results ever.
Right. That I'm sure Cody can probably attest to the frustration you probably get from like more novice clients.
This is where it's fun to talk to meta reps because I entirely disagree with like most of what he just said.
Oh, the battle royale starts right now. Let's go.
Go out of my way to tell students who bring up the learning phase to shut the fuck up and ignore it because it literally, I understand what it means and what you're saying is entirely accurate. So the learning phase, you need to have at one point, who knows, they change the numbers around, but you need to have 50 conversions per asset per week to get out of the learning phase so that it has enough information to be able to say that it's fully optimized. However, if you're doing the correct testing, and a lot of these students that we work with understand they work with clients that have lower budgets and shit, we get out of the learning phase no matter what, mostly because we can outspend that problem. And so we just get out of it. But a lot of these guys run into a situation where even if they're getting what I call ideal cost per lead, right? They're not getting out of the learning phase because their clients just don't have the fucking budget to hit that 50 conversions a week that they need to be able to move past that and go to the optimized phase. So if they stick on that on their brain, and this is the problem with stuff like this is like, all of these are what I tell everybody is these are recommendations, not rules. So like, even though it's sitting there telling you, hey, we're not in a learning phase. Hey, we're not in a learning phase. Hey, we're not in a learning phase. You don't have the fucking money to do it. Stop asking me about it because it doesn't matter. Is your cost per lead or your cost per purchase or your cost per result within your ideal? Is it within the boundaries you set to become profitable? Are you making money? Is it working? Cool. Then that shit doesn't matter. It's a guideline and it's something that you shouldn't ignore completely. And if you have the resources available to get to that optimization point, fucking do it. But otherwise, right, the goal should be, and we use Rahul, can you let me share my screen? We use a process called rapid fire testing methodology for our shit. And it really is just designed specifically, right? This is the flow chart, right? Different types of campaigns, different types of people that comes onto it. But the concept is to specifically test past a certain amount of viewpoints. So we get it in front of enough of an audience to make an actual decision. Now, not statistically relevant, but relevant enough to make a decision. And then we make our decisions based entirely around our ideal cost per lead. Right. So as the conversions have 2x our ideal cost per lead, does it have 3x our ideal cost per lead if it doesn't have conversions yet, and shut shit off and test things in specific way. So this one specifically, you test audiences first, you test hooks and offers second, you test creatives and stuff ongoingly so that we're separating out the variables in the equation and actually improving each one, testing it, making sure that we keep a track record, all of that, and actually move forward on that basis. So it's not that I disagree, I guess, with what you're saying. It's that it's really only relevant if you can outspend the problem. If you're spending a shit ton of money and you're not getting 50 conversions a week to be able to get out of that learning phase, then of course you're being dumb, right? But for a lot of you guys out there, right, in our Facebook groups right now who are younger agencies or younger coaches running your own ads or running this for other people, I think you have to understand that you might not get out of it just because you're not going to be spending enough. And what you really need to be paying attention to is your ideal cost per result metric and making actual decisions based around that.
I want to give you a chance to rebuttal Cody. Anything you disagree with or agree with? I'm going to be the moderator.
I don't think it's a agree or disagree thing. I think it's just multiple ways to look at it and depending on your perspective. So Cody, of course, has a much better understanding of who everyone here is and what phase of business they are, right? So internally, we're looking at massive clients, right, that are spending a ridiculous amount. And some of those, it's, what you want to think about as Cody said and kind of what I shared earlier is that none of these are hard rules. There's always going to be exceptions. You just want to know how the system works, right? And so there's some people who will run campaign and just keep tinkering with it in a major way every couple of days, right? And don't get a chance to, or don't have a methodology as you do for, this is what I'm testing first. This is how I'm setting up my next campaign. This is where I'm maneuvering things to based on this information. It's just like, it's been 2 or 3 days. I haven't seen results yet. So let me just do something else. And when you're doing it that way, you're not either looking at it from either perspective. You don't have a methodology you're testing, you're going to fail. Or if you're never letting the campaign run long enough, right, or to get to a point where you're spending high enough, to be getting the results, you're missing out on the potential benefits of either one of these. But it definitely matters, as Cody said, like depending on the size of your company, where you're at, being in or out of the learning phase doesn't mean that you shouldn't be getting results or evaluating, right? If you're not spending a lot, you still need to just be looking at what your results are. Hopefully you get there, but that doesn't mean that should be the end of your campaign. It just means it needs to be something that you're aware of and that you understand.
Yeah, no, agreed. Like, who's guilty of that? Who's guilty of having impatience and wanting speed for results, but then almost like cutting off your nose to spite your face by doing things too fast or optimizing too soon without having the correct levers to pull? I'm guilty of it early on. Cody's guilty of it. Everybody's made those mistakes because you don't know what you don't know. You're trying to do what's best for you, your clients, or whatnot. So let's go into mistake.
Wait. I think that one main thing that we just heard out of this was that we agree that if you don't have a testing methodology and you have no idea what the fuck you're doing, then you're flying blind and you're going to hit a wall eventually and crash. If you're doing what I call the spaghetti against the wall method, which is exactly what I think most of you guys do, unfortunately, which is, you're an Italian cook and you just take it all out and you throw it against the wall and you're like, woohoo! And one or two of those pieces of spaghetti stuck to the wall and the rest of them fell. Good for you, man. You found one winning ad, but when that shits the bed, you have no idea why. And now you're going to have to do it all over again, right? So if you want to avoid that bullshit, and maybe you want that cheat sheet I just threw up on there, I think that fucking thing's invaluable. I only give it away every now and then to people when they show up to shit like this and take action. So if you want that, if you'd like to get it, drop a hashtag RFT, stands for rapid fire testing, down below in the comments, and we'll send it over to you.
All right, let's go on to mistake number 3. Oh, before we do, actually, I was going to say, well, back in the days, what we used to call that spaghetti analogy was spray and then pray, because we used to deal with a lot of display marketers out there where they just buy a bunch of media, spray it on the fucking websites all over the place, and just pray that they get some sort of click through, and then they'd sell the impressions, right? So it's like, oh man, 2 billion people saw your ad, but made you no money, no top of funnel, no strategy. So that's definitely the spray and pray. So I'm going to lean this one into you, Cody. Now, what's the number 3 mistake? It doesn't have to be ranked in any order. Whatever comes to mind that's common for you that you see people be making on their Facebook ad campaigns.
Oh, starting it in the first place. The savior complex that they put on ads, the concept that they think, oh, my business sucks, my offer sucks, everything sucks. But if I spend a bunch of fucking money on Facebook, my business will be set free and I will make all the money because that makes perfect fucking sense. Yeah, no. I tell people all the time, look, ads is kind of like alcohol. All right. If you get an asshole drunk, he just becomes a bigger asshole. Okay, that's the reality of it. And it's the same thing with ads. If you take your broken piece of shit offer and you pour a bunch of money into it and put it in front of more people, that's just more people that don't want to buy your shit. Nobody wanted to buy it in the first place. They don't want to buy it there either. So you don't have the proper offer in place, and no amount of traffic is going to fix your shitty offer ever. It's going to break before you even get off the ground. Ads are an amplifier. Okay, I could have the shittiest landing page, and I actually tested this 1980s looking piece of shit landing page against some nice fancy one. And what happened was this one had a good offer on it, and this one had a shit offer on it, and this one blew the other one out of the water. Because at the end of the day, most of the heavy lifting, 80 to 90% of the heavy lifting of your ad, and one of the simple processes we teach you guys in these groups, the SOAP ads, right? Scary offer application process. What is it? It's taking a scary offer that we teach you guys how to make, creating a control ad that basically just says the scary offer in both the text and in the image, and goes to a lead form and then sends an asshole text right afterwards that repeats the offer back to them. Just offer, offer, offer. The most profitable thing to start out, 90% of your success will come from that. If nobody wants it, then don't fucking do it again. Test a different one. When you find that right one, then you go get fancy. Then you worry about the VSLs and the follow-ups and the long form copy and all the videos you can shoot and the cool funnels and all that shit. But at first, simplify it to where you get an offer that actually works. Then expand outwards. The number one, I think, by far mistake that people do is that. They think that ads are going to be the savior for their shitty offer, their shitty business, and all they end up doing is expediting their own failure instead of fixing and validating an offer first.
Yeah. So, I mean, keep it simple, and then you can always get ninja later. And that because we're all wanting the perfect scenario, and that doesn't exist because we put in the work and built these like beautiful J. Abrams style letters with the yellow highlighter, dear so and so from the desk of Cody Getchell, like that bullshit. I mean, you don't know if it's gonna fucking work. Like test fast, fail fast, and then fail forward because that's the best way to do it. And then you can learn from our mistakes if you want to reach out, and we're going to give you the rapid fire testing. Just a reminder, hashtag RFT if you want that beautiful document that Cody spent probably forever working with a graphic designer to make beautiful. So anyways, all right, what about a mistake from you, Teva, that you see it as common?
Let's see. I would say, really not focusing on the creative, right? And really not putting much attention there. I think, I agree very much so with what Cody just shared, right? And I think about it as from a standpoint of like an artist or a musician, right? If your offer isn't good, your offer could be equivalent to your song, right? Your song, that's what you're offering. And it doesn't matter if your song is trash and you get on a bunch of bigger stages and you get some big shows, your song is still trash and people don't like it. You know what I mean? And ads might be speakers, right? And your landing page might be the venue, and there's your automations might be the power. These are all these things that can make it better, that can amplify it, that can make the show more enjoyable. But at the end of the day, you need to have a good song. And if you don't have a song, it doesn't matter how many funnels and pipelines and systems you put that trash song through, it's not going to get popping, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similar when it comes to your creative, right? When you're running a creative, Nielsen did a report that 47% of why someone purchases from an ad is due to your creative, right?
Creative, you're identifying as the video or the graphic as part of the ad copy, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The messaging is, that includes, usually there is where you're sharing the bulk of your messaging, right? You're sharing what your offer is, what you have to offer, how you're going to do it, who it's for, right? In a compelling way. And so that is very much so responsible for a lot of your results. So I'll know a lot of people who will spend time with everything else. And sometimes, and it doesn't, when I say good creative doesn't necessarily always equate to heavily invested in, super well polished, shot with 10 cameras, right? It doesn't mean that. It means, is the content good? Is this something engaging? Do people like it? And I think often when folks are thinking about running ads, they're thinking about it from the comparison of, I'm only running or I'm only competing with other ads that are in my similar niche, right? Or other businesses like me. But when you're scrolling on someone's feed or when you're scrolling Instagram or Facebook yourself, when do you see an ad? Right between your family or your friends or a wedding or travel or food or vacation or a comedian or an influencer. And your creative has to stop them and engage them long enough, which means it has to pique their attention and their interest, right? That's got to be the thing that's the hook. And so if you miss that part, if you don't focus on that part, right, then why are you spending a whole bunch of money to show or let people hear a song that's garbage, right? First, focus that money on making sure you have a good creative, a good ad, understanding how it works, making sure your song is good, and then you can expand and you can scale and you can distribute. You can go through distribution, but you need to make sure that your creative is on point.
Yeah, and what Teva mentioned as far as like the fancy setup, which you might see some overproduced ads out there. The one thing about comparing ads, whether it's like something you like or saw from like a Geico or some big brand versus somebody smaller like your competitors, you don't know if those things worked. Right. So when you go and copy or you take ideas from, like, I see that all the time. Like people are like, oh, I'm just going to copy this dude. But that dude has like 20 or 30 different creatives in the ads library, number one, because they're doing the fucking testing. But number two is if you copy something, you either got to copy the whole thing to see what works. But you have to have your own strategy because what you see visually, you don't understand the targeting behind it. You don't know their sales funnel. You don't know their sales process, their reputation. So copying and pasting isn't necessarily the right answer because we just don't know what the results are. They could just be burning money. And quite frankly, you guys are a bunch of marketers. You guys don't know always your numbers. Like I know a lot of people who collect ad spend and call that revenue. It's not the way the world works. We're looking for the profit center, right? I don't know if Cody was shaking his head for something else or what I just said.
I just can't. It's the counting ad spend as revenue, and it's all the coaches counting generated before it's collected. It's just shaking my head at that nonsense. Too much.
Yeah, I mean, and because like Cody and I have invested heavily into videographers. I mean, some are cool to work with, some are fucking nightmares, some lose our assets. So we take that risk at every point, right? But the point being is like this little device right here is so powerful that it has such great cameras. And this is a Mac, so like this is old, right? So this is like 4 generations behind, and it still takes quality video. These are where the majority of our videos come from. This fancy Canon that I just pointed at, that never sees the light of day in the videos you see that we do. It's always this little device right here. So you guys have your whole production company in your palm of your hand. For you guys that are thinking like, who do I call? Who do I work with? It's you, it's your creativity, it's your speed of how you can come up with anchors, hooks, and all those stories that you can test into your audience. If you have a big organic following, you have a free testing pool. What's going to get the most engagement, the most comments, the most results that lead to any kind of sales? Now you have a premise of what the rest of the market may want, so you can create that ad creative. And the beautiful part about this is mistakes are okay. You can stutter, that's totally fine. You can always reshoot it, recut it, and that's the best part about it. All these apps like CapCut, you got Captions, or there's websites out there that have freelance video editors that can just knock out a 30-second or 60-second reel in less than an hour and pay them for that hour initially. So there's all these different resourcefulness or resources that you can utilize. But most importantly, it's just getting what's in here into this phone and then putting it out there, and not letting your ego stop you from being great, because that's a lot of you guys are scared to do fucking videos. But everybody wants the video. The market has spoken. Now, in terms of this may be a hard question to just answer broadly, but like if you were to do marketing for somebody, either Cody or Tava, whoever takes it, like, would you prefer to be working with somebody that can do video ads or do the graphic design type still ads? Or is that too broad?
I personally don't care. That's my answer for it. We also have video editors and graphic designers on our team. And a lot of our best performing ads is just putting out the offer the way that it is on a big ass image, and then eventually getting fancy with nice ass videos and graphics and shit after that. So I'm indifferent to that, to be honest.
Yeah. Any kind of like generalized feedback on that, Tava?
So I like, as I said, there's kind of like processes, right? So what Cody's talking about is like testing. If you don't know your offer is good, it doesn't matter what level of creative, juice that you put on a bad offer. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like offer out there and make sure it's tight. Now, when we're talking about from like a creative, and there's a difference, like optimization, right? And scaling is different than like getting sales, right? And so I think people need to understand that. It's like when you initially start, you don't need to have every single optimization and be trying to find every single integration and thing that you can add on to your funnel to make it perform 1% better. Like just get it out there and see if it's working, and make sure, as I said, even if you have a not a great landing page, but it has a good offer, you can see if it works. And then the optimization is the process of improving your results over time once you know that something is successful, right? And so when we're talking about the optimization side, video is really cool because you just have a lot of capacity to do a lot of elements. So one, if you think broadly, the kind of content that's at war is reel style content, right? Short form video. If you look at YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels, right? That's the kind of competition that's competing in the market right now. So therefore, the platforms that are on them are trying to push or promote that content to get more users, right? always going back to how is the algorithm working based on what the company is doing or needing, right? And so that's why when you came out and you started using Reels heavily, you got a bunch of views, right? Not just because they just worked better, right? It was because, hey, we want people to use and look at more reels because we got this competition over here and we don't want to lose users. So if we can pump people's content more, that'll generate something better for us. So if you're always understanding what is the back end systems behind these algorithms, you can kind of use some of that information to improve your results. So with video is pushed, right? It also gives you a lot more message that you can put in because you have different forms of media from, audio to visual to movement. Now, a couple of just like of very specific things that you can do in your content to make it perform better. Whether you're using a still or video, adding some type of movement in your content has been shown, via studies to improve the performance. So that could be as simple as you have, a caption or a wording based background and the colors are switching, the background colors are switching, right? Or the words are moving in, right? Our eyes are attracted to movement, right? So if we're looking for something in a room and everything's still, it's hard to see. But let a shadow or light or a fly, your eyes are immediately attracted. So having some type of movement on the screen can get people to just pay attention a little bit more. And that's kind of really what you're looking for is those 3 seconds, right? The majority of people drop off an ad after 3 seconds. That's why you have metrics like continuous 3-second views, right? Because that's the highest drop off point. So you want to try to figure out in the first 3 seconds of your creative, what do I need to do? Is it an offer? Is it a call out to the audience? Is it something provocative? Is it a visual that's shocking, right? Is it a headline that's like, what the hell? Something that gets people to just stay past that to continue to see the message, right? And a lot of people are thinking about that as much.
Yeah, that hook is so important because one thing I think you probably shouldn't be doing is saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm Rahul Aleem, the founder of the GSD." Like that might not be the most appropriate because I'm assuming a stranger does not give two fucking shits who I am yet until they know what's in it for them and their attention. So they're willing to kind of give us the currency of their time as our first mover. Because there's a lot of times where you can meet a stranger online. Some of you guys met us as strangers and you may have liked something. Maybe you thought something was bad and you still followed us. It doesn't matter. But the whole point is like, there's that hook. Everything's got to be a little bit intentional as to how you can offer value to earn somebody else's respect and time. Because then once you earn their time, then you may earn more of it and lead up to your sales journey for whatever that may mean to you. It could be more followers as goal. It could be more leads. It could be more comments, more people in your Facebook group. You got to identify what is your goal of your strategy, of your sales funnel and your customer journey. All right. So I know we've been here for a while now. So out of respect for time, we have the number one lever to pull. So Teva can give us the back end algorithm to Facebook. No, I'm just kidding. But what's the number one lever to pull that people aren't pulling that can help turn and transition their campaign?
It's their creative, right? Based on the Nielsen report, 47 is due to your creative, 31% is due to your reach, how many people see it, right? So if you have dope creative and you get a lot of people to see it that are in your audience, because the reason that is, and people say, your target audience is worth 11, and it's not specific across your entire funnel, but when it comes to your ad, the reason you're thinking about that is because say even if you hit every one of your ideal client, right, of your target audience, but you have a bad offer and a piece of content that doesn't engage them or cause them to stop, it doesn't matter if you hit your perfect target audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
If less of your target audience, but you have a great offer and you have something that engages people and shocks them and lets them look, the percentage of people that are in that audience that are in your audience that saw it are going to have better, they're going to take your CTAs. So you want to really focus on your creative. You want to think that even though it also ties to what we call the Facebook audience relevancy score, which is where Facebook is evaluating each ad and looking at how relevant is this ad going to be to the potential person that I show it to. And just like organic content, where if more people engage, interact, or take an action based on the result of your ad or based on the result of your content, that content gets more reach. The same thing is true of your ads, right? And so what makes content be engaged with is the same thing you want to be thinking about with your ad, right? So a couple of things. Have one clear message. Don't try to promote every single thing in your business at one time. Have one core offer. Identify the person who you're talking to, right? Or who is your audience. So I'm hearing a lot of people, I get a lot of ads sometimes and they're like, are you a real estate investor that's generating X amount of millions already, right? Your message should both identify who you want to work with and separate those who you do not want to work with, right? That's good leads. That you don't want everybody in your funnel, right? You want to let go of the people you don't. Use some movement in your ad or in your creative, whether you're using a video or a still. Try to add some kind of movement. And then finally, just do something dope. Be creative. Think outside the box. Do something funny. Make some content that's interesting, something that people haven't seen before. Be visually appealing. Don't just go, I see every other coach doing this video right here, so I'm going to do the same thing. Like, get fun and try stuff.
But this just shows you the power of one. Like, I mean, one person, like one persona that you want to offer, one offer, one audience. Like, be very specific. Like, be as prejudiced as possible. Not racist, but prejudiced. Like, you got to segment this stuff. All right. Because like, that's the most important thing, because it's your business, it's your money, it's your client's money. Like, take that stuff serious. Like, get really good at this stuff, because if the backbone of your business is reliant on generating leads from Facebook or Instagram or even another platform, this is stuff that you want to pay attention to. There's these nuances. And then if you're doing it for your clients, there's even more on the line, because your job is one thing, 3 letters: return on investment. You got to get them in a better position than when they met you. It's not to get them into a depleted position where they go out of business, right? So we would just want to gain up our skills and level up, because then you could be authorities in the niche and that service that you provide. So that's important. And it all comes back to like media buying, because a lot of you guys do a lot of media buying. Okay. So for one last thing that I want to do before we go, like a couple things. Number one, you mentioned some data here. We have 40%, 47% is directly correlated to the creative in itself. 31% is directly correlated to the reach. How many people are actually being able to consume this thing? Now, let's talk about that little headline across the bottom of the ad. Like, a lot of people focus on that. How important is that?
Well, it depends for more people. It adds context, but we want to know how they test the data and why they get. But from the Nielsen report, it was worth 2%, right? Which is very small, right? But you're looking at that in the context of that 2% can be great if that content captures their attention. But if you have terrible content and you have an amazing caption, that caption doesn't matter, because it's not stopping people's attention. The caption only matters after attention is captured through the creative, right? So if you're looking at how do I optimize these results, the first thing you shouldn't go for is, hey, let me test this caption about 7 more times, right? It doesn't mean that that's not something you should test and that you should work on. It just means that there's other higher priority pieces that are going to make a difference first.
Perfect. Cody, what about you?
Sorry.
On the creative. Yeah, on the creative, like, what are some tips and tricks that you have for the audience for creative? Because I want to get into the future of
again, I'm always the offer guy, right? The hook. We've shot, how many fucking reels have we shot, Rahul? Like thousands.
Probably like in the thousands now. Yeah.
The ones that work the best are the ones where I say something like I would write a fucking ad headline at the beginning.
Some of the shit that you say, yeah, I mean, like, to me, I'm like, fuck, that's stupid. But because it's like it was shock and awe, and I'm like, oh fuck, that one worked. So we never know. That's why we're always testing.
It's like I could say a lot of people do what Rahul said. I'm Rahul Aleem and I'm awesome, and look at me, and here's the cool tip. Well, by the time you get to the cool tip, because who's Rahul? Nobody knows. We talked about this already, right? But if I come in and I'm like, here's the number one secret to you making an extra $10,000 next month that nobody else has told you. And then I start flailing my arms around and I'm like, whoop, whoop, right? And we use our video editor. So there's flashy chickens across the screen for some reason. And then boom, now you're like, well, what the fuck is going on? I want to know that secret. Let me watch the rest of it. So you always got to be thinking hook. And the hook is not always a headline. A hook is in a video too. It's the first thing that you're doing to capture their attention, right? Remember, we've taught you guys sometimes about speeches and shit and doing master classes, and I talk a lot about tonality. Well, there's the grab your attention tonality, and then there's the hypnotic slow down and listen. What did you just do? You fucking grabbed you, and then as I slowed down and calmed down, you're like, wow, this got really interesting. I didn't say shit other than yelling at you and slowing down. Right. So understand you got to do scroll stopping, you got to do hooks, and all of the rest of it, like everything else, will be. You've already got their attention. They're going to listen to it, whether it's good or not, but you got their attention.
Yeah. You do this. Yeah. Will, like I would do this on your organic content as well. Definitely do that because you want to catch their attention. One trick that I've learned is integrate a horse. Like whenever I'm on a horse, I get more views. No, I'm just kidding. Last horse I was on was Blaze. He was 17 years old and barely fucking moved. I was pissed. But all right. So future predictions. Where is marketing going? I'll start with you, Cody.
Where is marketing going?
Like what are some tips like people should be integrated? Like whether it's like AI, whether it's some shit that
honestly, my biggest thing is diversify. For a few of our clients that are doing over 100, 200, some $400,000 a month now, it's diversifying, not because we need to. And I know we're sitting here talking to a meta guy and he's like, bro, and I'm like, well, it's the truth. You get fucked on Facebook, you get fucked. If you don't have more than one bucket, you gotta. So I mean, TikTok, YouTube, all these platforms work. We personally run ads now, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram shoutouts, which are technically ads, but not technically run by the meta shit, right? All of those places and stuff that we've used to diversify. So when some of our ads might have issues, or if our lead cost shoots up because the CPMs on one platform are there, you got to diversify. And a lot of these platforms right now, similar strategies will work with just a slight tweak in your messaging. So it's not that hard to replicate across platforms.
Cool. And what about you, Teva?
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think where marketing is going, I think that it is fusing more with culture and art. And the more we continue to be at a place where, social media has kind of combined, obviously somewhat separate, right? Before you had, traditional, you got a commercial that interrupts an amazing show that you like, and you have to watch the commercial to get back to what you enjoy. But now you can scroll past anything, right? And so your marketing has to be more entertaining, right? Eventually, I think those are going to cross, and we're not going to see such a difference between what we consider marketing and what we consider content. Eventually, everything will be in this space where it's crossed, where this is just content that you're seeing, but it happens to have branded messages or sponsored content or messaging as a part of it. And so I think the faster if you as an agency or anyone who's listening can embrace the fact that as a marketer, you are now a creator or a creative, right? And it doesn't mean that you personally have to be the creator. It just means that that's the ecosystem in which you're operating in. The sooner you get on board with that and start integrating both the marketing strategies from a funnel, testing, offer, business perspective with the things that you're seeing on the cutting edge of creators, influencers, artists, and you fuse that, that's going to be what generates your longevity and sets you ahead in the future of marketing.
I love that. Those are both two great tips. And I hope you guys can understand it and execute it on your own. I'm going to go old school and not even give a future prediction. I'm just going to give a current state of mind. Is that like you have to create the foundation of your business to be able to get to that next level. Doesn't mean you can't be creative right now, but a lot of people are chasing something and stumbling over. It's almost like we didn't learn our ABCs, but then we're trying to become like this top dog in some industry. I think like the speed is killing people. The patience is a virtue, truly, because like we're instead of like people are wanting to know how fast can I make $100,000. The question should be how consistently can I make $100,000, and how long would that possibly take, right? So instead of going for speed, let's go for conquering a bigger goal. Because like with our business, 2004, that's when we were born, Custom Creatives, and we brought in an integrated GSD training, right? So it was a long journey. The first steps were all chaos. They were all fucked up. We had whiteboards was our CRM. If somebody walked by our whiteboard, they erased our client if they hit their fucking arm on it. That's how we operated. Nothing smart, right? So we learned those processes that can get us to that next level. So I want to kind of go a little bit old school, is like fix the foundation so we're not built on sand, because you guys are entrepreneurs. You're not just salespeople. You're not just media buyers. You're the whole show. And you're doing something marvelous, right? You're doing a remarkable thing, is helping other people. So you treat yourself as a real business, treat yourself as an investment strategy. Just like when people buy crypto, but then they don't invest into their own systems. Don't do that. Fix yourself first. Be your own crypto ecosystem, because you can just go all the way to the top once you believe that you are Microsoft. Treat yourself as a public company, put your money into it, and you'll get a lot more out, because you are your own ROI. You get to determine, does my $1,000 make me 50 grand, 10 grand, 2 grand? You get to determine that all by your lonesome, right? So that's kind of my state of the union in terms of like it's obviously not a future prediction. It's just something that we've got to fix as a business as a whole, is that foundation. And then all these future strategies are absolutely imperative, because we want to be on the trend, right? If we can catch the trend on the way up, boom, fuck yeah. I mean, we get the views, we get the eyeballs, we get the love, the engagement, etc.
Can I?
All right, any last words from you guys?
Yeah, just what you said. I think that was super, super, super important. And I think it's actually, one of the mistakes that Meta made, right? And why you're seeing, and I think, across the tech industry as a whole, but it's specifically Meta, and why you're seeing a lot of these layoffs, I think is partly because there was so much attention to just build new, create new stuff, build, always just be inventing, which is great, right? And at certain stages in business, that's really important. But if you're doing that at the risk of making sure that your core systems, your core service, right? A lot of the complaints that so many people have is their ad accounts get banned, or they can't get, ad approved, right? So as a company, if your core customers can't even do the basic necessities of what they need to do to give you their revenue and to get their service, you're focused on building some new fancy thing. That's great and all, but then what happens when the floor gets wiped out and you don't have the money because you weren't taking care of the primary aspects of your business? So I just wanted to share that, because I think that was a very huge point. And I think sometimes people think, oh, it's a small business thing. Like, that's an all business thing at all levels. That is the number one thing you need to be focusing on. And once you have that thing that tight and you got those systems and the processes, all this marketing and all that is scaling. So that way, doing that better. But that's got to be tight.
I love it. Anything from you from a last word, Cody?
This has been fantastic, though, man. I appreciate you coming by with some good shit. Best conversation I've ever had with a Facebook rep. Tell you that.
So let's back up. He's a global strategist, motherfucker. He's not a rep.
Sorry. Yeah, not a rep. Global strategist. That explains it.
It's like calling the founder of Subway a sandwich artist. Come on, man. Well, David, thank you so much for coming out. You're in Mexico?
I'm in Oakland right now. I'm back home.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, nice. There you go.
But follow any of the travels or any of that kind of stuff. I'm on Instagram mainly, Tava, the Idea Man. TEVAH, the Idea Man.
All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. Happy Tuesday to all. We'll see you guys on the next live.
Thank you so much for spending the time to watch that amazing training. Like I mentioned previously, my intention is for you not just to watch that training, but if you got something out of it, if you think this information is useful, I want you to continue that journey with us. And you can do that in a couple of ways. One, I want you to smash that subscribe button so that you get notified every single time we put another one of these out, which will be at minimum once to twice per week. The other thing I want you to do is go ahead and click that next video right there beside you so that you can dive in and get shit done. Hope to see you out there.